Hi guys, so today we'll be taking a look at Corona render settings. But however, Corona render settings are not much interfered with because by default it is set up to give you the best productions. Unlike V-Ray, where you have a wider expanse of render setup and render settings to give you much more control on your renderings and your outputs. However, today we're going to take a look at Corona render settings and see some of the things that we can change and how it affects our render scenes. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, we jump straight into it. I'll be using a kitchen from an old render so that we can easily check some of these settings and how it affects the render scene. Alright, so the first things first, we jump straight into the scene tab. And over at the scene tab, the first thing you see is the show VFB. The show VFB is basically this tab. When you click on it, it gives you a preview of what you're rendering in your scene. Then under the show VFB, we have start interactive render. When you start interactive rendering, the scene tends to start your interactive render so that you can be able to make adjustments in your scene, and you would have a real-time render and a real-time preview of how or what you have brought into the scene. And over there we have a setup light mix. You have to stop the interactive render for you to use the setup light mix. When you click on the setup light mix, it shows you the list of things that you would have in your scene, the list of lights that you have in your scene. You have instance, group light, interactive light, and hidden lights. In this scene we have no hidden lights. So we'll leave it as an instance light because there's a lot of lights that were brought in and multiplied as an instance. We click on generate. Now what it does is that when you check onto your light mix tab, all the light mix comes into the scene. You see all the instances, the instant lights and the lights that have been brought in into the scene in different codes and different namings. When you turn H off, you see its direct impact on your render scene. When you click on this the light with this turns on. You click on this, that turns off. Another light turns off. You click on that, it turns off the general light in the room, and you turn that back on. Then on your environment tab, which this definitely tells you about the light in the environment which you've used. Maybe you used Corona Sun or Corona Sky to light up the exterior part so as to bring in light into the interior. You can turn that off as well to see how it works. In this case, we didn't use environment light. Basically, we use plain lights to throw in lights from the openings without necessarily needing the lights from the environment. Then another beauty of this light mix is that you can play with the colors of each of the lights that are in your scene. For instance, if let's take the general light, we can decide to increase the intensity from here and reduce the intensity from here. And the beauty about it is that you can do this in post-production after the renders are done. Maybe you're checking it and you see that the lights seem too dark or too bright into the scene. You can reduce it here just after you've rendered, making sure that you actually see it as CXR or EXR file, so that you can be able to open Corona post-production editor with your EXR file. So, and also you can change the colors to any of your light options here. As you can see, it changes, gives you different hues, different light mixes, colors, hues and temperatures. You can change all of that, and I use this so often because it helps me with my post-production to give me the best lighting scenes I can hope for while I'm done with the actual rendering. So yeah, this is basically the light mix. Okay, the next thing on the scene, on the settings, is your open material library. Unfortunately, we do not have the material library connected to this version. However, if the material library is connected to this version, you would have a list of Corona libraries that comes as an add-ons that you can take directly as default into the scene. I prefer to download my own scenes and make my own materials, but Corona has an option for you to take from their default material library. And of course, when you click on reset settings, it changes all the settings that come standard with Corona, and all that you have done will go back to stock. And we wouldn't want to do this for this video, but I will put a link, or I'll do another video to show you how reset setting works. But in theory, all it does is just to reset. It's self-explanatory rather. It just tries to reset the entire work done on putting up the Corona settings. Next is your progressive rendering limits. On your progressive rendering limits, we have the pass limit. You can render your scenes under pass limit, or time limit, or noise level limit. Now these limits help you to control your timing of your render. Unlike V-Ray, when you're doing a progressive rendering, you rely so much not necessarily on time. It doesn't give you the options of time, but maybe an option of noise level. But here in Corona, you have 1, 2, 3 options of what you could use to do your renderings. You can either render it with your pass limit. You can set it to 50, or set it to 20, or set it to 25, or set it to 1. However, depending on how quickly you want your renders to come out. But you should bear in mind that the higher the pass limit, the more defined and cleaner your renders are. You can use your pass limit, you can use your time limit. You can set your time for 2 hours. Once the rendering gets to 2 hours, the rendering automatically stops. You can do renders for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, in the minute tab as well. And you can also control your time of render with noise level. If you set it at 0.003, it has to get to a noise level of 0.003. Depending on how long it takes, it has to go to 0.003 before it stops the render and saves it. So it all depends on your time. It all depends on how you want to make use of your rendering limits to get your desired result. Personally, I like to leave it as is and just come back to check out when the scenes are less noisy. But however, I like to have my noise at 0.003 and let it render, and at the same time watch it till I get to the point where Denoiser comes in and does the rest. I'll show you later on what Denoiser does to your scene. Alright, let's leave this at 0. Now definitely you have to save your file as CXR, but there is a fun thing to this. Is when you save your file as EXR. Let's say we go to YouTube videos and save this. As you can see, these are test slides that has been saved. We can save this as test AB, and it saves what we have rendered here, and we can resume from the file that I have saved. For instance, if this is where I've stopped and maybe I went to do something else and then came back, I don't have time to do, maybe I didn't have time to continue, I would save right now and then come back and it will resume. If you click on resume from file, you click on that CXR file AB that we've saved initially, and you click open, and it tells you confirm overwriting, and you say yes. And what it does, it starts to render from this particular point. Yeah, and then as this goes, So the next thing is resume last render. Wherever you stop, just like I said, as long as you have saved it as CXR, you to a point where maybe you left it has rendered for an hour or two, you save the area where it has rendered up as CXR. You can easily stop this and resume last render. It takes you back to where you saved it before, and it will resume from that same saving point. All right, let's check render overrides. What it does, let's start interactive render so that you can see what that does. Render overrides in V-Ray means you find it in displacement settings, where you can override the materials of the entire scene, maybe to use it to check shadows or to check reflections, etc. But let's go first of all with render hidden lights. If there is any hidden light and you click on render hidden lights, it will bring in the render hidden lights and show you all the lights that are rendered in the scene. But in this case, we don't have any render hidden lights, so we turn that off and render only max disable shading. This is another part where maybe you want to render only the mask, only the diffuse maps on your scene without adding shadows, maybe just to see how your diffuse settings has been, or maybe to check out the material quality of material that you have used in your scene. However, for this scene, I don't think we need to dive into it. Like I said, not everything in Corona render settings you actually need to touch. It changes nothing. And you have material override. When you click on this material override, what it definitely does is it tries to override the entire material with maybe a material you want to use as stock to check what is going on your scene. If you want to check shadows, you want to check reflections. So let's check this out. We click on it. We click on none, go to Corona, or we can even go to the material tab, take a material, let's say a white material, and drag it and drop into this place as an instance and say OK, and immediately every single thing in the scene has to turn white. Yeah, like this. So you get to understand some of the things that are in your scenes and how it has been working. You can see your shadows. You can see the shadows. You can see the reflections, and I mean you get to understand how every single thing is being placed in your scene. You can as well add objects, exclude some objects, or include some objects to be overridden in your scene. If you, let's say, let's take an example. Most of the materials and most of the objects in your scene are registered in numbers and codes, as you can see in this scene list. So what we quickly do is we go to any of the we can go to any of the scenes and exclude, maybe let's say a box, one of the box, and place it in here. By clicking into this way, it means you are excluding that box, and when you click OK, the box tends, whatever material that box is will be changed. Like example, there's a box material, a box object that was used for this refrigerator here. As you can see, it has excluded that material used on the box, and it is showing on your scene. So that is it for material override. Basically, it is just used to see your, the interaction between lights, exterior lights and interior lights and the objects in the scene. Check it out and see if there is anything missing and correct some of the things that are there. All right, next one, we take that off. The next thing is your denoiser. Now the denoiser is self-explanatory yet again. It will clean up the noises in your scene after you're done rendering. So when you click on it, you have only firefly removal. You have NVIDIA GPU AI. This is for a very quick preview. It doesn't completely clean out the noise. It doesn't give you the range to clean out the noise. You have Intel CPU AI. This gives you hybrid quality between your GPU and your CPU. And then you have Corona high quality, which is much more preferred because it gives you the same quality as you have started with in your renders without taking out much of the detail. But yes, no matter what type of Corona denoiser type that you choose, it definitely affects the details in your scene. So you have to be careful with the way you use it. But however, Corona high quality makes it possible for us to have a range. Then you have gather data for later. This is quite quick, but we always use Corona high quality. Hence, as you can see, though this is a preview, an interactive render, but you can see that it is much more accurate in terms of preserving the looks of the materials. Let's keep going down. So you have scene environment, you have environment max settings. These areas we don't usually touch. You have overrides. You can, if you don't want Corona to be able to detect what kind of environment is in the scene and how it is affecting your reflections, your refractions, you can easily come and tick on all of this boxes and bring in the environment used in your environment tab. When you press 8, whatever that has been used in this tab, whether it is Corona Sky, Corona Sun, or HDRI, you can drag and drop it into the scenes, and it will affect the whatever that was used in the environment there will be placed here, and it will affect all of this toggles, the reflection and the refraction. But as it is, Corona is detecting all the reflection and the refraction on the scene. All right, global volume materials. Global volume materials is for bringing in fog into your scene, bringing in hue and fog into your scene. We'll put another video up for volume materials and how it is used. All right, we'll go to camera. Camera definitely shows us what we can do with the camera if we don't want to do the settings in the original camera on the scene. We can come here to change your ISO, change your shutter speed, your f-stops. You can enable your sharpening and your sharpening amount, your blur radius, your sharpening radius. You can do your bloom and glare right here without actually using maybe the post tab on this section. You can come here and do it. And obviously we have depth of field. You can use depth of field to create that depth of field into your scene if you don't want to do that in post-production as well. You have motion blur that you can use in your animations. All right, let's check performance. Now on the performance, on this tab, you usually do not have to change so much. You don't, like I said, you don't have to change so much on this tab, but on the note tab, you can say it says settings below are optimal by default. So this is not, there is no need to change them unless there is a problem or you know exactly what you're doing. So basically you don't need to change any of these things. They are set to the best, and yeah, they are always optimal. Now, caustic solver is basically used when you want to add caustics to your environment. Maybe you have a glass material that you want to add caustics to, or you want to do water and you need reflections and you need the waves and you need to show detail. Caustics solver, when enabled, gives you that opportunity to give you more detail, but however it affects render time. Then we check also for the UHD cache. Again, nothing to touch in this area. Corona does its thing. Now let's try system. Under system, the image filters, you can take any type of image filters you want for your scene. You have black man Harris, you have tent, you have symmetric tent, you have hand. You have different types of image filters, but prefer to leave it as high quality. High quality does the best in terms of your render output. Then your render elements, of course, you add your render elements to the scene by clicking add. This is used for basically your post-production. Your denoiser can be added, your caustics, simple stuff, your Z depth, your reflections, more refractions, your shadows, your light mix, and all of that. You can include that in your scene, just like I've included in mine over here, and use it for your post-production at the end of the day. Alright guys, from this video, I hope you can understand that chrono render settings are quite easy to use. You don't necessarily need to change any of the settings to get the best results for your interior, exterior, and animation projects. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and on the link below, go to our Instagram account and register for online courses for architectural visualizations. Alright guys, till next time, peace.